Good morning. So today I'm going to do a quick review. QJ Motor SRK125R. You can buy one of these for $2,999, and it's actually pretty kitted out for a 125. So we got ABS front and rear, dual channel ABS, whatever that means. Inverted front forks, and that's quite nice. I don't even have that on my GSXS. Coming to the back of the bike, we've got an adjustable rear monoshock. Engine's quite strong. It's just under 15 brake horsepower, so it's on the limit for what you're allowed on a CBT. Fairly nicely made top yoke and handlebars. Quite a clear, easy to read LCD dash. And also the switchgear is illuminated. And I mean, for me, I just tend to ride on feel, but for a new rider, being able to see your buttons and switches at night is probably quite handy. And it looks pretty good as well. I wouldn't be embarrassed if I was 17 turning up to school on that. So I'll get the GoPro out and we'll take it out for a ride, see how it is on the road. See you in a bit. So sorry for the slightly dodgy audio quality on the introduction. I didn't realise till after I'd done it that it was a bit ropey. So first impressions, this is quite a nice bike, isn't it? Mirrors are nice and wide for a 125, despite being a gentleman of a high-calorie lifestyle, shall we say. I can still see behind me fairly clearly, which is very unusual for me on a little bike. I remember when I had my first 125, I was mostly looking at me. Suspension feels nice and plush. I'm just a little bit weirded out with how light the bike is. I'm used to my GSX 1250, which is a lot heavier. It's 270 kilos, that thing. It's an absolute bus. And this bike feels like it weighs about as much as a picture of itself. I'm not going to quote actual figures because manufacturers, they tend to use theoretical minimum weight for that sort of thing, and it's dry weight as well. And you know, some manufacturers, they take fork fluid out, mirrors off, seats off, all sorts of stuff to get that weight a little bit lighter. But it is a very, very light bike. Now that front brake is really, really special. I always put the levers out as far as I can because I've got big hands, but like I'm barely using any travel on that lever at all. You know, that is as nice as the brakes on any superbike that I've ridden. Personally, I'm not a fan of ABS. I'm a very experienced rider. I just find it intrusive and annoying. But if you're a new rider, having a bike with ABS is probably quite a comfort. The nice thing is, you know, really this bike's kind of geared at younger riders, you know, 17-year-olds on their CVT. And I'm assuming a lot of them are going to brake with two fingers, which I don't like. But at least having such a firm front brake, you know, they will actually still be able to stop fairly effectively, even if they are leaving a couple of levers behind the bar. I don't feel too cramped on this thing. It's not too wristy. A lot of sort of sports bikes, all the weight's really piled on your wrist, particularly little ones. Whereas this doesn't feel too bad ergonomically. Tank feels quite nice and slim. It's not putting a lot of strain on my hips. Really liking this dash. You know, that's very, very clear, very easy to read, even looking at it through a GoPro. You know, that's one of the big criticisms I've got of the SRT900. The dash is just really, really cluttered for absolutely no reason. Whereas this, you just get everything you need and nothing you don't. Now, I know I'm moving around these speed cushions without doing a lifesaver, and some people are probably going to be offended in the comments by that. Because I'm moving a distance I can see in my mirrors, I'm doing a mirror check rather than a lifesaver. If I was moving further than that, then yeah, I would be looking over my shoulder before I commit to my turn. So if you've done a CBT with me, you'll probably recognise this housing estate. I like to do U-turns and emergency stops on this housing estate. I know it's a little bit irrelevant for a review, but I like to U-turn bikes. I think it's fun. And you can kind of see how much of a steering lock it's got, which is kind of how maneuverable the bike's going to be, you know, in tight spaces. Again, thinking about what this bike's for, you know, this is probably going to be a teenager's main mode of transport, or only mode of transport other than walking and, you know, getting the bus. So there's probably going to be a few tight turns in car parks and colleges and sixth forms and things. Again, that front brake is just so sharp. I'm not quite happy with where my mirror is, so I'm just going to have a quick adjust of that. I always do this. I think I set my mirrors up right, and then when I start moving, my body position completely changes, and then my mirrors are very wrong. So, U-turn, observations, getting myself moving, quick lifesaver on the move. Oh, that turns very, very nicely. I'm absolutely nowhere near full lock, and that's gone straight round. I didn't notice I had my indicator on. Feel free to tell me off. So this bike, we've just sold it. This is why I'm out on it today. Obviously, all bikes that get sold, you know, anytime you buy a brand new vehicle, it doesn't have 0 miles on the clock. It's always got a couple of miles on the clock. And that's it actually gets test ridden by the shop that you buy it from. And really, you know, it's after final assembly, we're just checking that everything's kind of feeling right and working as it should. So we want to go up and down through the box, use both brakes, you know, make sure the steering feels good, you know, the bearings on the headstock feel nice, you know, all that sort of thing. Perfect excuse to do a review. And it's one of the things that I really love about my bike is, you know, most people have never ridden a bike with 0 miles on them because, you know, they come with a few miles on the clock. But I've ridden countless bikes with 0 miles on the clock now. And they're not all 125s, you know, I've ridden quite a few PRZ 400s to give them a quick shakedown. And the other week I didn't have my GoPro with me, otherwise I'd have done a review on it. But I was on a GSX S1000, which was really, really nice. Big fan of the GSX series. I've got GSX 1250. Way cooler than the GSF. Got to get that in, so a mate of mine's got a GSF. So steering around, you know, obstacles like cars, these speed cushions, just is so light and crisp as handling. It's not... I wouldn't say it's like a nervous, fidgety kind of bike to ride. It is kind of quite stable and planted, but it does seem to kind of go where you point it with very, very, very little amount of effort. And you know, the other thing with this review, you've got to bear in mind that I'm on brand new tyres here, so I don't have a whole lot of grip, and even though the braking's absolutely blowing me away at the minute, you know, when those brake pads bed in, it's going to brake even better. You know, tyres, brake pads, that sort of thing, they all need to settle a little bit before they're at their absolute best. So I think whoever buys this bike, whoever has bought this bike, is going to be very, very happy with it. Because very at home sort of on these sorts of urban-ish, you know, housing estatey, industrial estatey sort of roads. I really like the width to the bars, you know, I don't feel all scrunched up, and I'm 6'5", you know, so I'm used to feeling very, very cramped even on big bikes. Seat's quite nice. I wouldn't say it's plush, but I wouldn't say it's, how can I put it, sporty either. You know, it's actually fairly comfortable. Probably do quite a long ride on this if I really wanted to. So I'm going to pop into this petrol station and get some petrol. Keith, the owner, he has asked me to put tenner in, and I told him, oh, that will probably fill it, mate, but fuel is ridiculous at the minute. So I'm going to cut ahead a little bit because you don't need to spend 10 minutes watching me queuing in a petrol station, and we'll pick the video back up in a sec. So 10 quid didn't quite fill the tank. Fuel's crazy expensive at the minute because of everything that's going on with Iran and America. good looking bike, isn't it? And imagine being 17, rocking up to college or whatever on that. That's where teenage pregnancies come from. Now, this bike does come in a variety of colours, but you got to go for this one, haven't you? The red and the grey. Reminds me a lot of the Hyosung GT125R that I had when I was young, in the sense that it was, well, I mean, it was Korean, not Chinese, but it was kind of the same sort of, you know, plush, quite advanced, sort of rivaling the Japanesey sort of bikes. Because, you know, this QJ, it does feel almost comparable, dare I say, to, you know, the more high-end Japanese 125s that you get, like the GSXR 125 and the YZF-R 125. Really, difference is this is a lot cheaper. So the reason why I want to go back this way is I can get up to 50 mile an hour, because it's a 50 stretch. Not nailing it, you know, it's not my bike, so I'm not redlining it, and also it's still in its braking period, so it's smoothly going up through the gearbox, getting into sixth. I can tell you that liquid cooled single cylinder engine is an absolute peach of a motor, really nice and smooth. That L plate flapping around is doing my head in, so if this was my bike, that would have to be located somewhere else, or I'd probably just get a 125 license, an A1 license. So heading back to base, so final thoughts. Yeah, it's a nice 125. Would I buy one? Probably not. I'm 40 and I got a full license, but you know, if I was 17, would I buy one? Well, they're £3 brand new, and I didn't have £3 when I was 17, but if I did, I probably would. Or much more likely, I would buy a ratty old YBR and then keep it until I turn 19, and then save the money for when I turn 19, and then I'll do an A2 and probably buy something a bit bigger with 4 cylinders. So yeah, I've really enjoyed that ride, and I'm very sure whoever buys this bike is going to be, well, whoever has bought this bike rather, because it's been sold. I'm doing on it today, PDI. Sure, whoever picks this up is going to be very happy with it. Thanks for watching. That's really nice.
I mean, you're a big lad and you sit on it. And
I don't feel massively big on it.
Yeah, this is nice. I mean, one thing is quite good.